It was always crazy. My family were definitely a bunch of hippies, rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's how it always would go. They did work hard though. My brother-in-law, Glenn, he was a mason. He had his own mason business at one time until he sold it to his brother James. He's always done brick and concrete and building houses and frames, structured work, masonry work. My stepdad Vern, he did the same thing. Billy used to work at this place over by Mango. It was a plant. It was all fenced in. I can't remember the name of it. They dealt with logs and stuff. Not the plant that was across from Mango Trailer Park, but it was in New Smyrna, Edgewater somewhere. I just can't remember. I just remember pipes being lifted up in the air and logs and wearing hard hats and jumpsuits. I believe were like green or so. I get broken pieces of images in my mind, like slideshows. My sister didn't stick with the modeling. She got tired of it. To have an opportunity like that and to get tired of it. Either there's more to that story, or I guess that just wasn't her calling. She was so gorgeous, though, as a teenager. She had, no pun intended, like one of the perfect bods I've ever seen as a woman. And she had a lot of guy friends, but she was not a hoe by any means. She was a very respectful woman. A lot of women were jealous of her and thought that she was trying to be promiscuous with their man, but she wasn't. She was old-fashioned. When she stuck with somebody, she stuck with somebody. When she was drinking, of course, sometimes women can kind of get into situations they either don't remember or can't control. But that's different. She was a very good person and I know a couple of her best friends. One was Doreen and another one I can't remember. My sister Belle, she was an amazing person. She had such a huge heart. She still does have a huge heart. She is super sensitive, but she takes a lot to heart because she's been through a lot. She's a trauma survivor like I've never seen before, and I mean that full-heartedly. That's why I love her so much and why I've always stuck by her side for so long, because she has really came through some stuff that you only see in treacherous horror movies. Just Marilyn, you know who I'm talking about by this time. That means not Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie type of situations. I would not give a day to be a day in her mind. I feel for her so much. And I hope she's doing well today. I really am. I really do. I mean, my nieces, her daughters, Morgan and Megan, and her son, Glenn Jr., they're all amazing people in their own ways. They're all unique in their own ways, and they've all been through turmoil in their own ways. And they've all came out different from each And Morgan, I know most about her because she had kept in contact with me. Megs, I was her favorite aunt. I remember on Kumquat, I would get underneath her crib and I would slide out underneath her crib and I would say peekaboo and she would just laugh and laugh. And I would do that all the time. I had so much fun playing with her in that manner, like just listen to her laugh and giggle. Those were the days that you'll never forget, you know. Those are the days you'll never get back. And Glenn, you know, he was a character. Always wanted to be a little mischievous. But he was a little cutie as a kid. And Morgan, you know, she was a lineman. It takes a really strong, mentally strong person to be a lineman as a woman. You know, she's done some prison. I'm not going to tell her business because it's not my business to tell, and I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me, but she's gotten into some stuff that I wouldn't say there's 1000% her fault. We get it pulled into certain situations sometimes, and sometimes we're stuck in certain situations that we either don't know how we're going to get out of or we don't know how we got in. And then we're left trying to figure out how we're going to get out of that situation, or are we going to be able to get out of that situation. She has learned greatly, and then some from her mistakes. As she looks back on it now, and she admits dumb or stupid things that she, in her opinion, that she has done or gotten into, or that she shouldn't have messed with. But then again, we all have those times where we get into those situations or those things to where, looking back at it now, it seems like we could have done things differently if we wanted to, or if we had thought about it, if it had crossed our minds at any given time. She is a strong woman, and let me tell you, that woman is strong in many forms. She's a hoss. She's taken down a couple big girls just on her own, like, just to give context, like, she ain't the woman for real, for real. I love her to death. You know, she always, I'm not on Facebook much, but she's always posting the messages sometimes, like every once in a while, I love you, KK, or I was thinking of you, or, you know, little things like that is what matters. Little things like that is not what I look for, but what are nice to see and to know that you're remembered, you're cared about, you know, you're thought about. And if you know, you know, anybody that knows me knows that I do that also. You know, growing up, some of my favorite shows to try and help get me by, or my favorite artists were like Britney Spears, Brittany Murphy, uh, oh, Jim Carrey, Martin Lawrence, you know, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You know, as a teacher, as a teenager, like Cheetah Girls, That's so Raven. It's a mystery I can see. That's so Raven. It's a mystery to me. I love her. And then tea time with her and Miranda. You know, they don't know me from Adam, but they're amazing people. You know, outside looking in, I've always been a huge Raven fan. Raven Cinnamone. Because I noticed even her wife kind of catch moments where she's like, Simone. And I'm like, looking at the screen going, Simone, bish. Like, you're married to her. You should know this. But I love Miranda. I see a lot of Miranda when I started to watch Tea Time. I seen a lot of Miranda in me. As far as, like, traumas or some of the things that she looks at or thinks. Like the dysmorphia. I've always had dysmorphia about myself, but I didn't know it was dysmorphia until I started watching Tea Time with Raven and Miranda. I had just recently, like within the past few months, started watching, Hey Baby, It's Kiki Palmer. So that's fresh, and I'm tuning into that. I've been recently tuned in on and off to Bright Minded by Miley Cyrus, her wonderful podcast, and her mom's podcast. I can't remember the name of it, but with her mother and her sister. These are just podcasts that I've been tuning into. The Drew show. I love Drew. Drew Barrymore. She's awesome. I hope I got that right. And that wasn't like a skip, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And then Jamie Lee Curtis. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm not sure if she actually has a podcast or a talk show, but I'm gonna check out and see. But just kind of like, I love Kevin Hart. He's one of my favorite comedians. And I love his show, Heart to Heart. So, basically, give a little bit of context. But, I didn't really know about Beyonce, to be honest, until, like, my adulthood. I didn't know that she was the lead singer of Destiny's Child. Oh my goodness. My mind. But we learn something new every day, every year, every week, every month. My family they worked hard. I can't say they were always wilding out because they worked hard. They did bust their ass. My sister has had several different jobs. I noticed a lot. She cleaned a lot of condos and did a lot of house cleaning and babysitting and cleaning cars and working at gas stations and grocery stores. And I mean, like, she had, normal jobs. But we had our issues. When I started to develop, I started my cycle at like 9 years old. And I started getting my bobs at 9 years old and developed like these 36C, heavy. Oh my goodness, it was torturous. But when I started my cycle, it was in her bathroom. I remember she lived in New Smyrna, and I thought I was bleeding to death. I thought I was bleeding out because I flooded her whole bathroom floor. It looked like a murder scene. I'm not even kidding. And she's like, "KK, you just started your period." But that really scared the crap out of me. But ever since, that day when I started to develop, weird things started to really happen, and I noticed weird things around me, and it was just awkward, to say it the least. Like in the back seat, like when I was like 7, 8, I think it was like 8. No, it was 9. It was, I know it's my sister, my brother, and me and my brother Bobby in the back seat. And I remember my brother-in-law Bobby put his finger up into his mouth, doing a kind of motion while he was sitting there feeling up my leg and stuff. I know that same day everybody was getting into the car, and I went to get in the car, and Glenn went to go to take off, and I was holding on to the door with the door open, and they were dragging me down the road until he stopped and noticed, and he's like, "Oh, ha ha ha, okay, are you okay? I'm sorry, get in." So it's just, I dealt with a lot of things that maybe didn't make sense at the time, or that I didn't think too much of at the time, or that things would probably be like red flags, but I didn't see them as red flags as a child. But definitely I see them now as an adult, and I see the misconceptions now as an adult. And there was a time that we were at a campsite, and my brothers were fighting and arguing, and it was the same night that my mom thought it would be a good idea to go swimming nude in the lake, when my stepdad was yelling, "There's a gator," and yelling gator, and they were all yelling at her to swim to shore, and she was frantically swimming, and well, the guys had got into a fight, and I'm like, at this time I'm 8, and somebody threw a beer bottle, and it hit me in my eye, and it busted my eye open, and my eye was black and blue for a while. I don't exactly remember length of time, but for a while. And boy, let me tell you, that was some painful stuff. It felt like my face felt like I got hit by a bus, or I ran into a wall, like at full force. It was so sore. It was so sore. But that kind of stuff happened all the time. My mom was on medications and stuff, and she would drink on her medications, and I don't know what the deal was. And my mom had you know, like a pharmacy, bookshelves of medications that she had to take, like 16, 18 pills a day. Like, what kind of life is that for somebody to live? And, oh my gee. It was so, it was insane. It was so insane. But, yeah, I remember one time she had taken her medication and she had drank. She used to drink that Milwaukee's Best. And she was giving me a bath one night. It was about 6, I remember. Because that's the time that she usually would tell me, get a bath, get in my jammies, and get ready for bed. And when I looked at her, it just looked like there was nothing there. And she literally tried to drown me in the tub that night. And it was like, it felt forever, but I'm sure it was only like a minute or two. And she lifted her arms up and then just looked at me in the water. And I sat up and she just got up and walked out. And I got dressed and went to bed. Like, that traumatized the hell out of me. And she did stuff like this, and looking at her face, it was like that she didn't even realize what was going on, and she looked so confused to the world. Just, it was, it was some very weird situations, and I know that, like, I'm not gonna name names, but I know, like, one of Frank's sisters was, told me back in the day that, like, there's no way that that happened to you, and something of it, like, that stuff don't happen, or that didn't happen to you, or you look fine, or you seem fine. You can look or seem fine on the outside and be totally messed up on the inside. you know Looks are deceiving, and that goes in so many ways. I remember one time, me, my mom, and my stepdad Vern went went out in the woods. We were gonna go camping. This is so funny. I remember this. He had this big lifted truck. It was a Ford box body, square front end. The good ones. And I swear to God, I was 9.5. I was about to turn 10, and had looked up, and I swear to God, like 10-foot trees were separating. And my mom and Vern were running out of the woods, and she had to pee, and she was pulling up her pants, and she was running out with her pants half up, and he was jumping in the truck, and she's jumping in the truck, and I jump in the truck, and they're like, "It's freaking Bigfoot!" I saw this big hairy thing come separating out of the trees, and we just took off. I swear that scared the crap out of me. But things like that would happen all the time. You never knew what the next day was going to bring. It was always a mystery. But I'll pick this up in part 5.